Okay, how's everybody doing this evening? Of course, my name is Kent. The channel is EOS San Diego, and I'll make videos about the blockchain, mainly EOS and Bitcoin. But I talk about other blockchains, Ethereum blockchain as well. But tonight I want to talk about the reset. Everybody's talking about the reset, and we are in a reset. If you think we're in a reset or not, we are in a reset. And a lot of people want to know what's going to happen. A lot of people are thinking about the future. A lot of people are thinking about ways of preparing for the future, how they may prepare for the future. So I want to talk about that tonight. And I want to talk about some realities that I think people are going to have to start facing here fairly quickly. So anyway, I brought tonight, actually it's just a $5 bill, just a regular old $5 bill. I was going to bring one of my U.S. note $5 bills that was printed during the JFK time, but I forgot to bring that bill, so I brought a Federal Reserve note. A Federal Reserve note, $5 bill. And I want to talk a little bit about this $5 bill. Because basically this $5 bill doesn't have any value. I mean, it's literally worthless. I couldn't use it to build a fire or stay warm with it. I can't build anything with it. It has no value whatsoever. In fact, I think it has worse than no value. It actually is a liability. And the reason I think it's a liability is because the federal government had to print it. So they spent some money printing it. The government has to protect it, which means they have to keep it from being counterfeited, which costs money. I took this note tonight, or today sometime, as payment for something, so I took a chance that it's not a counterfeit. So there's so many liabilities with this money, and not much benefit, including the fact that it's basically dumb. It doesn't do anything. It's just a piece of paper. It's a worthless piece of paper, and the only value it has is what we believe it has. I mean, the reason I took this money tonight or today sometime is because I can use it to exchange for something else. Maybe, here I could buy an ice cream, maybe not. I don't even think I could buy an ice cream in this place for $5. Buys very, very little. So as of today, the U.S. currency, the $5 bill that I have right here, is worthless. In fact, I think it's less than worthless because, like I say, I think it's a liability. And I also think that the U.S. government that prints these $5 bills also knows it's a liability, and also knows that there's going to have to be a reset. And I think that's what's happening right now. We're in a period of reset, a transition, a time where fiat currency is going away. And statistically, fiat currency always goes away because 100% of the time, fiat currency goes back to what its real value is, which is zero. So there's never been a time that fiat currency hasn't gone to zero, and that includes the US dollar. Will one day be worth nothing, zero, because it has nothing of value behind it. So when it had represented gold, then it had value, people would hold it, but that hasn't happened for a long time. So really it's valueless. Statistically, it's worth nothing, and it will be worth nothing very soon. So that's a guarantee, that's a 100%. That's why statistics are important in these kind of analysis, because you have to look at what has happened historically, and the way to do that is measure statistics, and that's can't even say it, statistically it's worth nothing. The other thing is we have this idea that money has value because people do accept it for things. But that is a very flimsy and a very fragile thing. When people lose confidence in it, it could drop very, very quickly as far as the value of money. You can see that around the world, that people just give up on money very, very quickly, especially when it doesn't buy anything. The other thing we can say statistically is that whatever assets are being inflated, those assets, and they're being inflated by the fact that the money's being printed so much, those assets will too go back to their true value. So in other words, when a house in Santa Monica, California is worth $4 million, and it's a single family home, just a general everyday ordinary home, the assets of that house have been increased by the printing of this money that statistically has no value. So eventually that house that's worth $4 million in Santa Monica, California is going to go back or lose some of its value. It's going to go back to its true value, and not the value that it's been propped up by the increase or by the asset appreciation, which is what we're in right now. We're in asset appreciation time. where the US government's printing a lot of money and assets are becoming worth more money. So if you owned a house in Santa Monica, California in the 1950s and 60s, and probably paid something less than $100,000 for that house, and it's worth $4 million today, you saw a huge asset appreciation. And it's because of the money printing. But that asset appreciation will eventually go back to its true value being what it's worth, what it's really truly worth. In real world, how to evaluate something in real world, what people make, what jobs are worth, what people can afford. These are the kinds of things that make things worth what they really are, not how much money was printed that continues to make the assets more and more valuable or more and more inflated, which is what's happening right now. So we know two things. First thing we know is that the fiat money will go to zero, and the other thing we know is that asset appreciation will eventually come back to its true value, what it really is worth and not what it's been inflated to be. So that is the reset. How do we get things back to where they need to be? Now, personally, I believe there will be a digital dollar. In fact, I don't only think there'll be a digital dollar, I know there'll be a digital dollar. And the reason I know there's going to be a digital dollar, although there is a digital dollar today, and I got a quick story for that. It's a funny story too, so I'll tell you the story. One of my children, I think my middle son, had his field trip for his school that he was at back when they used to go to school. They don't go to school anymore. Back when he used to go to school, we went up to Sacramento, which is the state capital of California. And of course, it's a group of kids, a group of parents. We're all going up there. We're having a good time. And two highlights of the trip was, number one, you got to see the state capitol. And the second thing is you got a chance to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger and his wife, Marie Shriver. So that was the big thing. So all the way up, all the way back, we're excited about seeing Sacramento and the state capitol. And of course, obviously meeting the celebrity, Arnold Schwarzenegger and his wife. So we go up to the Capitol and we're walking around and we're seeing all the historical buildings and all the historical things about it. Well, one of the parts of the Capitol had the California State Treasury. And it was really funny because it wasn't the Treasury of California, it was like a museum. So they had this room and they had like mannequins in the room, and then they had like bank vaults, and in the bank vaults they had like fake gold, bars of fake gold. And it looked like it came out of the 1900s, and it really was portrayed to be the 1900s. And of course, somebody asked the tour guide, where's the money today? Where's the Treasury today? Where's the California? And of course, the guy said it's all digital today. And this was 15 years ago probably. And he said, of course, it's all digital today. We don't have a physical treasury or a physical gold or vaults like we did then. I thought that was very interesting because that was a very revealing part of that whole trip for me. A second part of the trip was that we got a chance to go to Arnold Schwarzenegger's governor office, along with where his wife was supposed to be too. And we had a young tour guide, and she was, prepping us for the opportunity to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. And she said, he's here. We're going to get a chance to meet him. He's at the end of the tour. This is like the finale of the tour. So we go to, of course, Marie Shriver's office is first. And we walked in, of course, right away you could tell the office was staged. No one was in this office or had been in this office or working out of this office for a long time, or if ever. And of course, there was a picture of her and Arnold Schwarzenegger and pictures on the wall. And of course, the desk was cleaned and it was just a sterile room and everything. Well, after you went through her office, then was Arnold's office. And of course, same thing. You go into his office and there was nothing in there. And of course, just so happened that we just missed him. They were just there and we just missed him and all that good stuff, which I knew was complete garbage. And as we're walking out of the building, there's a tour guide there, and he's an older gentleman, and he said, he goes, I tell you to every tour, the guy is never here. He says he shows up once a month because he's mandated by vote. He comes in the back elevator, he goes up, he makes the vote, and he leaves. And he goes, you never see him. He says, I think, all the time I've been here, and the guy had been there forever. He said, I've only seen the guy a couple times. And this is why he was governor. So literally, the Treasury had moved out of the Sacramento Capitol building, and so had the governor. So the governor was gone, everybody was gone. So there was nothing left but this empty building. Well, that's kind of what's left with this cash. It's just like everybody has moved away from it. It's gone. It's finished. They've been moved on. Just like Schwarzenegger was living in the governor's wasn't in his, in the governor's offices, and neither was his wife, and neither was the treasurer. It was all gone. Well, that's kind of what's going on with this money. It's all gone. The money is digital, but the money is, like I just said, it's not smart money. It's dumb money and actually a liability, not only to me, but to the U.S. government that prints it. So what are we going to go to in the future? I believe that we're going to go to some sort of a digital dollar, but the digital dollar will be a smart digital dollar. It will actually have utility and performance. So, and I talked about this the other day, it's about smart contracts, and that's why I like EOS. So many people tell me that EOS is pretty much, at this point in time, worthless. It has no value whatsoever, and there's so many other. But they always come up with conclusions, and they never come up with analyses. The analysis of, and I've never heard anybody come up with anything yet that proves to me that EOS isn't the best smart contract blockchain going. So I believe that EOS will play a future part in the economic and monetary system of the world and the United States, because it is the best platform for a smart contract. And I think smart money will be the future. Programmable smart money. Just like our phones. Our phones used to be just make a phone call. Now what are our phones? Messaging systems. We keep our money on our phones. We keep our, everything. Basically our phones are everything. It used to be that you'd misplace your phone. Well, now it's impossible to misplace your phone, because your phone is such an important part of your life. It has everything you do is on your phone. It's a smartphone. Well, that's literally what this money will be in the future. This money will be smart money. It won't be in my wallet anymore. It won't be in my pocket. It'll be on my phone, off the phone that I'm using to shoot this video with right now. That's where my money will be, and that's the way money will be in the future. Money will be utility, it'll be smart money, and it will have performance. And what I mean by performance is it will be, there will be a smart contract that will allow the money to have some conditions associated with it. For instance, one of the problems with money right now is that they are printing money crazy, but there is no money velocity. Velocity of money basically means there's nobody out spending money right now. So the velocity of money is very low, but the amount of money increased is very high. So you have people hoarding money or keeping money, or you have people like Warren Buffett who have lots of money that aren't spending it. Well, in the future, money could be programmable so that it could expire and you would be forced to utilize your money in a certain period of time, or else it would not have any value. That would help increase the economy. The economy could move faster, or be forced to move faster, because you'll be forced to spend your dollars before they expire. That's what I mean by programmable money with utility. That's what digital currencies are all about. That's what our challenge application is all about. I can make a challenge for someone to post a video, happy birthday to my son, on social media, and in that challenge, program the ability to give a token, in this case, one EOS token, for somebody that performs or meets the challenge or meets the conditions of the smart contract that I did through the challenge. So really what the challenge is just setting up a smart contract with conditions for performance to pay. That's all it is. And that's what I think money will be in the future. Now, the question I'm sure everybody's thinking of right now, which is what everybody's scared of, is if the government has smart utility money and they have the ability to put performance in this money, what are the performances going to be? Perhaps, if you have a political point of view, maybe your money won't work. Maybe if you don't take care of yourself, maybe if you're overweight, all these things. I don't believe that is going to be the way it works out. That's kind of a conspiracy point of view. And when you say stuff like that, it's really, I think, out of a fear mongering. And actually, a lot of the people that push that point of view are people that are gold and silver people. So in other words, they'll tell you, digital money's bad. It's going to be used by the government to control you. So you just need to buy gold and silver. And without much understanding of programming, smart contracts, or blockchain, they just give you that conclusion. Just like I said, a lot of people give the conclusion about EOS being worthless, but they give no analysis. The people that tell you that the smart money in the future is going to be used to control you, or used to manipulate you, or used to get you to do something that you may not want to do, are really people that don't understand how smart contracts work, or understand that if you have programmable money, it's going to have to be decentralized programmable money. Because if it's centralized programmable money, it'll be just like Google, Amazon, Facebook, and all these other different entities. People will not want to use it because they're going to be, if they don't want to use it, if they don't use it because they think it's going to have some negative attachment to it, and they don't use it, then it will have no value because nobody will want to care. That's what I said about money in a second. It's a state of mind. It really isn't anything more than a state of mind. So if people believe there's going to be negativeness associated with the money, they won't want to use the money, and they won't hold the money, and they may go to other means of exchange. And I don't think the world's economy wants that to happen. I think the world's economy wants the digital money to be work. So I believe personally, but the digital money will be run on a blockchain. And the reason I think it's going to be run on a blockchain is because the contracts are going to have to talk to each other. Smart contracts are all going to have to talk to each other, interact with each other for it all to work properly. And you can't do that in a centralized single unit system where maybe just the World Bank creates a currency and they're the only ones that control or monitor that currency, and they write all the small contracts, and has to interact with all the banks and all the different exchanges and everything in the world. I don't believe that's possible, and I don't believe that's what's going to happen. I believe this will be a public blockchain that will run the money publicly, and I believe there will be a lot of ability for people to have some vote or some say in how the money is done. In other words, you won't have like we have today. We have basically the US dollar, world reserve currency, which gives the United States a huge advantage monetarily. I think in the future it's going to be a system that has a more level playing field. The thing about the US dollar right now, and the thing about the past, is people around the world didn't really know how other people around the world lived because they didn't have access to information. Today we have access to information, so everybody knows what everybody else has. So if people see a certain standard of living higher in Canada or the United Kingdom or the United States than they have maybe in some other country, they're going to want that higher standard of living. And they're not going to participate in this economy unless they have the opportunity to better their lives and their standard of living. And that way you won't have to worry about people like, our ex-president, where they have people, thinking that they've got to get to the United States because they're going to have a better life, so you got to protect the borders and do all this other stuff. No, there'll be a level playing field. The money will be digital. Everybody will have access to it. And as long as you have a cell phone and a connection to the internet, you will be able to participate. And that's what I think is going to happen on a public blockchain that has programmable utility, a digital utility, digital dollars, digital whatever they want to call them, digital units that are programmable, that are smart money, that has performance and utility to it. That is what I believe is going to happen, and that's what I think is going to be taking place. The problem is it's going to take a while for them to figure this out, because it is a problem from the technology point of view. It just doesn't happen really, really quickly and really, really easily. So while we're in this transition time, where this is being put in place. And why I'm saying this, I'm thinking of Libra and what Libra did, which is basically, and of course Libra had a lot of money. They had Facebook and all the money behind Facebook helping them, and they were creating a digital dollar, and they were backing it with a basket of other currencies. That could be possibly what happens. It could be a digital dollar, it could have a basket of other things behind it that are backing it. But I really think that this utility money in the future probably won't have anything backing it. It'll be valuable just because of the utility and the way that it can be used to help everybody have a better lifestyle, to have a better life, to have a better way of living. And I think that in its own way will be the reason people will want to use it. Plus, I think it'll have to be fair money or people won't want to use it. It'll be much like our cell phones. I mean, the one thing you can count on around the world is that almost everybody that lives in any kind of society that has somewhat of a freedom to it is going to have access to a cell phone and have access to the internet. I mean, maybe if you're in a country that's very, very, very isolated, like North Korea, you don't have access to cell phones and the internet, but the rest of the world, they do. This will be the way this money will be. It'll be, everybody will want it, and they'll want it because it's utility and because it has value and because it's usable and it betters our lives, just like a cell phone does. So I don't care who we talk to in the world today, like with our challenge application. People are on their phones. That's why we have it on Google Android, and that's why we have it on the iOS, Apple Play, is because almost everybody around the world has a cell phone, and everybody's on their cell phones, and the utility of the cell phone is so great and so valuable that people want to use it. People like it. They see the value in it, so that's why they use it. That's the way this new digital currency will be. It'll be so valuable. It'll be so usable and have such great utility that people will be wanting it so badly because of how it's valuable and it betters their lives and the way they live and increases their standard of living. And that's why people want this digital currency, and that's what I think is going to happen. I don't believe it's going to be a negative thing, and I don't believe it's going to be something that people need to be scared of. And if people are telling you that, just look at who's telling you that and why they're telling you that. I mean, an easy way for people to escape all this reset is just to go, hey, I'm going to buy some gold bars or some silver bars or something like that. That's a real easy way of thinking of it. That way I don't have to understand Bitcoin. I don't have to understand a blockchain. I don't have to understand smart contracts. I can stay away from all that stuff. I can just be real, I don't want to say ignorant, but I can just be, I don't have to participate. I can just be in my own little world, and I don't have to participate. I can just do the things I want to do. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is I think people are going to be more want to be involved with this, because I think they do see that there is an economy around the world that needs to grow, and everybody wants to be a part of it. Like I say, people want the nice things in life. People don't want to live in, maybe some people do, but most people don't want to live in a mud hut somewhere in the world, isolated, and not have access to the internet or have cell phones or anything like that. So I think the world is in a position to reset, and to reset digitally and reset with money that has utility to it. So I think this is a very important thing, and I think that people should start to understand it. Even if you do fear it, I think it's obviously coming, and you do need to understand it. The other thing I want to talk about in this video tonight is a couple things. First of all, I'm going to put a link down below to a video that I'd like to have you watch. It's actually someone that has been trading CHL, which is our token, our smart contract token, on the Wombat wallet. And he shows you how to do it. So I'm going to put a link to his video. The other thing I'm going to put a link to is my son Chase with George, which is City Mills. He works with us in Challenge, and they had a Ask Me Anything thing on Twitter. I want to put a link for that too, so people can start to think about that. So there's a lot of things going on. Of course, we're doing all we can do, by developing the Challenge application. I think this is the direction things are taking. I think there will be a reset, and I think there has to be a reset, because if they don't have a reset, then things are just going to go way out of control. Look for Biden to be pretty generous in the beginning of his administration here. I believe he probably will forgive most all student loans, which will be a good thing in my opinion. I think student loans are always a bad idea. I think that to give money, and basically student loans was a promise made to students that if they went to college, that they would have a higher standard of living and a better life, and be able to afford to pay back the student loan. And of course, for a lot of people, that never happened. And the universities got fabulously wealthy with these student loans. The money went to the universities and to the administrations, and not, in my opinion, to developing students so that they could go out and compete in the world in order to make. And of course, the students were always at a disadvantage because of the fact the the way the money was being operated. But anyway, I think student loans will be forgiven by Joe Biden, and he should, because he was one of the guys that helped pass a bill, or was one of the sponsors of a bill that kept people from bankrupting on student loans. So I hope he makes good on that. And of course, Elizabeth Warren's on that side of it, and a few other people that he's pretty close to. I think Bernie Sanders and stuff like that. And I think they should. And I think if they forgive student loans, it'll put a spark in the economy, because you have a lot of people making payments on these student loans. That's money that should be going back into the economy instead of going to paying off this debt that will never ever be repaid. We all know that there's no way that the debt's ever going to be repaid. It's too late. There's not enough money, and you can't print enough money to keep up with it. And if you do print the money, how do you get it out to the public? That's why I'm saying you need some sort of smart money to be able to fix these kinds of problems, like we have with the student loans, with the debt. Even if you print all the money that it took to pay off all the student loans in the world and put it out in the economy, how do you get it to people that need it to pay off their student loans? I mean, do you just give it to them, or do you give it to Buffett, and hope Buffett gives it to him through a job or through a business that he starts? I mean, that's what you're looking at right now. And the way it's been happening in the past is you give it to Buffett and just hope Buffett funnels it to the everyday ordinary person, which he hasn't doing. And I'm not using him as the only person that's done this. I mean, basically all the elite have done this. They've just hoarded the money and kept it to themselves. I was going to bring up another point on that point too, but yeah. So the money is being hoarded by a few people, which kept people from having jobs, which kept people from paying their student loans, which has kept families impoverished. And I think that if Biden can free people up from that, I think that'll be a good thing. A story. I'll give you another story. I told you the one about the U.S. Capitol. I had the opportunity to visit a football coach one time at a major university. And he wasn't even the main football coach. He was an assistant football coach. And I think he was pretty far down as far as the level was concerned. I think he was an assistant defensive back coach of a major football, Division I football program. And I had an opportunity to go up into his office and visit with him one day. You can figure out which university I'm talking to. My sons went to that university. I walked into his office. I'd never seen such a beautiful office in my life. First of all, it overlooked the stadium with this panoramic view that was amazing, because you were high up in the stadium, way up in the highest point of the stadium. Had this beautiful office. I mean, you could not have ever. I don't think a CEO or some executive any place in the world could have had a nicer office than this assistant football coach had at the University of Arizona State University's football program. This was amazing. And when I looked at the palatialness and the plushness of this guy's office and where it was located in this university stadium that was a massive structure that was built from public funds, I'm thinking, wow, these universities have done very, very well for someone that's like an assistant football coach to have this kind of facility, staying in this kind of office, having these kind of surroundings. So that these universities, public universities, made a ton of money from the federal government student loan program. So to put that back in shape and write off those student loans, I think would be a good thing. A lot of people will say, well, I paid for my son and daughter's student loan. I scrimped and I saved and I worked 2 jobs and I did this, and now they got theirs forgiven. Well, I can understand people's frustrations with saying things like that. I've heard that argument before, and that's a good argument. But the point of the matter is that doesn't make it right. There was still students going to school believing that there was going to be something for them when they got done, and there really wasn't. And honestly, if it were up to me, I wouldn't only forgive the student loans. I would probably repay some of the people back the student for the money that they spent going to college, and make education free. I would probably make education free. I know a lot of people don't like my political views because I'd make a lot of things free. But when you're in a system where the money is just being doled out to certain people, and in hopes that it trickles down, then why not? Why not just give it to the ordinary person instead of giving it to the very wealthy? The other thing too is I was listening to one of the former, I think, secretaries of Treasury, Robert Reich, and he said that back in the 80s, things took a turn. He said prior to the 1980s, the way you had economic growth was through investment and production. And he said after the 1980s, the way you had economic growth was by exporting jobs and importing production. So in other words, the jobs left, they went overseas, and the way companies, grew, or the way money was made, was by bringing things back into the country and not building things within the country. So when that flip took place, basically at that point, the colleges were preparing students to fail. They were no longer going to go out into the world and make money by working in the United States, because obviously the jobs had left, gone someplace else, and it was harder and harder for people to make a living. So, when that flipped, when that thing happened, when we went off the gold standard, all those things happened. These are reasons why I think that the student loan program was set people to fail. So anyway, my political view, I know a long video, and a lot of people won't agree with me on some of this stuff. But anyway, that's what I think. I appreciate you watching.